Hey guys, back with the Echoing Thoughts podcast here, episode number 51. Last podcast of the year 2023. Went by fast. Went by fast. Um, Thank you guys for all the support. It was a lot of fun. Excited to keep doing it next year. Gonna finish the year off with a bang. Class tiers, the last one of 2023. We're going to compare it to the last class tiers ranking that I did back in the end of September. There was a rebalance in October, so there will be a few changes since then. And so before we get into that, I want to do a little Q&A. I think it's been a while since I've done some of these. I appreciate all the comments that we've been getting. And so I want to answer them a little bit more in depth. And so the first question that I got, HernG77 said, I'm stuck on Exalt 40 to 50. Can you please post a short guide on how can we excel from there? What is the cheapest, most effective way to Exalt? No, not really such thing as cheapest. Most effective. So I just have my project weapon completed, 40 to 50. It helps that it's tradable, right? I think it's very hard to, I guess, maximize events, maximize making your own fodders with CRA, with Rudibus coins, with Kerning Tower coins, Guild Shop coins. So what I did was I had a tradable weapon, right? Went across multiple characters, accounts, and I used events. The last two events, Lan had an Exalt scroll reduction 30%. This current one, Exalt reduction scroll 30%. And then I had the Around the World, I think it's what it's called, box, the 100% Exalt reduction scroll that you can get from those. So I had about 3 or 4 of those. Just playing the game, multiple, doing the events, logging in. It's a grind. It takes a lot of time, but the best players that I found that sort of are the most cost effective per se, do it their own way, is through that. Like I said, making your own fodders, doing Chaos Rudibus for the hats, for the weapons, to make your own Chaos fodders, right? 22 SF, 21 SF, using events, like I said, all the scrolls, all the lucky scrolls, the monthly Rudibus coins, the Kerning Tower coins, the Guild Shop coins. That's just what you have to do. It takes months to make your own. Grinding, right? It's not easy, but if you want to know what I tried to do as the most, free play way, was doing that. Obviously, it takes a lot of luck. Still can do all the right things and still, fail 5 in a row. There's no, you can think, there's no perfect way, right? You just can't get around the RNG, the chance, the gambling, right? So that's what I've done. What I know a lot of people do that are, I guess, doing it the free to play way. So I would say try that, right? I mean, obviously you don't need to have the multiple accounts, but just do, scrolls. Make your own Chaos fodders. Sorry, not Chaos fodders. Radiant Exalt fodders. Or, buy a Chaos hat, Ancient hat off of TS. And you can, look at Trade Server doing Golden Apple. Look for cheap Star Force scrolls, like 50%, 70%, and then, get it to 17, 18, 19, and then finish it yourself that way up to 20, 21, 22. Or another route is you can look for cheap lower SF Ancients, 15 to 20. Find them cheap, build them up together to make a 20 something percent stone versus a 30% stone. Right, there's that's a great route as well. A little bit cheaper than just buying a straight 22 SF fodder or ancient item. You might find some good deals. Some 18 star force, 19 star force for like 1 bill. A few of those, save you a few bill, a good discount in the end. But that is some things that you can do to help with that process. I wish you luck. You're gonna need it. Everyone needs it. Hope that helped. Thank you for the question. Second question was from Stalub96. I was wondering if you can do a video on how a Paladin can maximize the damage output for Damien. For example, when is the best time to use your V3? Should you save it with Divine Echo? Or should we save it for Divine Echo to be up before attempting V3? Yeah, that's what I do. And I think it's a tough call. Depends on the situation, obviously, but specifically for Damien, and just to maximize damage, right? You want to pair them together. I've learned that using it off a cooldown, V3 is a 2-minute cooldown if you have it maxed. It just doesn't line up nicely, right? It doesn't, theoretically, right? You could do it right off at the start at first 5 seconds. Then you'll get it at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And then you'll get it at 4 minutes, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, because you have to wait for the entire charge on the channel skill before the cooldown starts, right? So it's a little bit, 6 seconds here and there, it adds up. That third time around 4:15, it gets close to using up Divine Echo, right? And it just, to me, I prefer combining it with Divine Echo, right? It feels more consistent. It feels more on par with the playstyle of the Paladin, where it's just heavy burst pairing with all your skills together. And what it allows me to do is use it for the right time, right? I think that's very important. So if I use it every time when Divine Echo's up, Weapon Aura is going to be up. Benediction may be up for my bishops. Other party buffs may be up because usually they're on 3-minute cooldowns. Shade Split might be up. Defense Smash 4, you can pair it with that as well. And then you can use it more flexibly instead of just using off a cooldown to allow you to get all 1,600 lines that you would get if you pair it with Echo, right? You don't want to be using your V3 when the boss is moving, when he's diving, he's dashing, when he's immune to your skill, when he teleports away, right? That just wastes the skill. That just wastes it, right? And so it just allows for more flexibility. And that's what I prefer, my play style. And I don't want to get knocked back and interrupt the cast, all right? I want to use it when I can use it, and usually just doing it with an Echo, maybe it's every 3 minutes, but it just feels safer. It just feels more consistent for me. And at the end of the day, the line count, you see 3-minute line count for Paladin is so high, but it's misleading, right? Because rarely ever does anyone use their V3 off a cooldown to get that extra, 800, 700 lines at that 2-minute mark. Does that make sense? Like, in a 3-minute fight, ideally to maximize your lines, you'd use it right at the start with Divine Echo up, and then at 2 minutes, 2:15, again, right? So you get 2,400 lines out of those 2 skills in a 3 minutes time frame. But if it's a 4-minute fight, you could get possibly 3,200 lines if you used it twice and paired it with Divine Echo, right? So it's sort of misleading, and something that I've tested and talked to a lot of Paladins about, and they just pair it with Echo. It just makes the most sense, especially because those Divine Echo lines from your V3 may not always cap. So you want to get all that extra final damage by pairing it. You want to get all that extra cap when you pair it with Defense Smash 4, with Split, just to maximize the damage. That's your biggest skill. It's your biggest burst. It does the most damage. So you want to have it doing, paired with everything else that's going to maximize that skill specifically, and you can get the maximum channel, the full channel duration appropriately, right? Great question though. I hope that helps. Yeah, that's something that I do, and I hope, I kind of apply it to all my bossing situations in general, Lotus Arc, things like that. And we're back. Class tier rankings, the last one of 2023. This is my previous class tier ranking, and that was prefaced by saying this was the best for Damien. Sorry, the best classes for Damien. So it was actually, I think shades were over here. Bishops were obviously S tier. Shades were obviously S tier, and this was in the end of September, where there was actually a rebalance since then, and I missed a few classes. Kanna, Cadena, and obviously Adele came out, so we're gonna add them to the list. I wanted to make this tiers list specifically a little different, specifically around solo content. Who's the best at, covert, Mulong, who excels in solo arc, solo Lotus. So it's not necessarily the end game of Damien, because my last tiers list for Damien was for Damien. I think that it's not going to change much. The best classes are going to stay the best classes, the sports skills and things like that. But I think it's important for people, especially for people that are trying to go the route that I'm going in 2024, which is getting middle tier, or above average gear to eventually solo arc on a daily basis, to solo Lotus weekly, and possibly get to Damien the end of the year after V4, after a few rebalances, maybe after a few cap changes, but really focusing on doing solo content. And I think that's gonna be a big part of 2024 for alts, right? Like before, a few years ago, maybe recently, it was all about CRA, how many classes you could, that was the main source of funding for mesos, free-to-play mesos. Now it's commander dailies for the 7 Chaos Shards, and it's solo Lotus or team Lotus for the Absolab coins, and solo arc or regular arc, right? I think there's just for me, and a certain pop audience out there that are going to be have all of a sudden solo, doing solo content. It's there. It's been something that's been emphasized in 2023, and I think it's going to be important in 2024. So I want to help you guys kind of figure out what classes are good solo content, mainly DPS wise, burst wise, and specifically survivability and playability. I think it's important to have the toolkit for survivability and as well as the damage. So first off, we're going to add these classes right here. Cadena. I forgot to mention them in the top 23 things of my last podcast of 2023. I don't know how I missed it, but I missed it. And honestly, I don't know too many people maining it. And I don't know how, it doesn't seem like they're very boss, strong in boss content. They don't have dark sight like other thieves. They don't have, obviously, they're not a mage or a warrior. Is it a warrior? Nope. So they don't have the V3 warrior skill like Adele's do. And they just don't feel very boss focused, right? They're great for ults and star forcing and things like that, but they're not, I guess, per se, their main goal is for bossing. Now, if someone could prove me wrong, I would love to hear it, but I think they're just bottom tier right now in bossing and solo content specifically, because they don't have a lot of survivability skills. They just don't. And yeah, they're a thief. So, and they don't have dark sight, and they don't have any iframes, I think. I mean, unless I'm wrong, but yeah, they don't feel very anything special per se in bossing. Kanna, same thing. One of the things that frustrates me about Kanna is just that they don't I'm dying in Chaos Daily Dungeon. They're just squishy. I don't know what it is. They're squishy, and they have weird damage rotation. They obviously have great support skills with their barriers and things like that, but like survivability wise, mobility, they're yikes. They don't have a double jump. They can't move around. They feel slow. I think that they have a teleport, but it's not, you know, maybe in solo Lotus that's good mobility wise, but they just feel like they're lacking mobility and survivability. They do have ethereal form, but I just don't think it's very ideal, and I don't think that they obviously don't do a lot of damage as well, to make them worthwhile. So that's where I put Kanna, and I'm gonna put Adele. I've heard good things about Adele. Now I'm gonna put them in the B tier for now. I think they deserve to be in the A, but one of the things that kind of they're a better Demon Avenger, right? Just straight up. So I guess let's put them in the A tier for now. I've heard they've had about upper 15,000, 16,000 lines in a 3-minute fight, which is pretty good. It's on par with, heroes and DKs, and I think Demon Slayers might have a little bit more, but they're up there, right? They have a good. They're not in the, they're consistent. They don't have a lot of burst, which I think worries me for bossing, because the best classes have some sort of burst, and it just feels like Adele doesn't have that. They just have consistent passive lines and things like that. They just have one iframe, right? The V3 skill, and they don't have anything more. So they're probably a little squishy, not very tanky. Oh, they actually have 2 iframes. I forgot. Sorry. So they do have a second iframe. So short cooldowns, 1 minute. So they may have some options as far as dealing with skills like, I think they have a stun as well, or bind. So thinking it over, they may have more utility than I thought. Survivability, and their lines are pretty good. Just don't have the burst. A tier. I am fully aware that by the time this comes out, or in a month from now, I look like an idiot, and Adele is S tier. They could be better than DKs. They could be better than heroes. They could be better than Demon Slayers. But right now, A tier is pretty solid for a brand new class. And obviously they're S tier for training and mobbing. So I'm excited to see the Mega Whales do content and hit PRs and do all types of stuff. It's nice to see people re-rolling to these newer classes and them actually being very strong right off the bat. So those are the new classes, and then we'll get into how things change. So first off, I just straight up think Demon Slayers are S tier, and this is for solo content, right? We'll go from the bottom up. Solo content, because again, all these classes right here, I don't think they're going to change. Not much is going to change as far as survivability, self-healing, iframes, mobility. Good, not great. I don't think they're very impressive. I'm mainly thinking about Solo Lotus again and Solo Arc, which has the screen cracks and has the damage reflect and the magic crash, and Lotus obviously has the lasers for mobility. You're going to need iframes, some sort of teleport, and mobility to avoid things in phase 2 and phase 3, the knockbacks and avoiding debris from above. So these classes, I feel like, all stay the same. They haven't had much damage-wise increase since the October rebalance. Xenons did. They may be higher than I think. But I'm just going to put them C tier for now. I just think these B tier classes are much better. B tier. We'll start with the Arc. Does Arc deserve to be B tier? I think if we're just talking about, even in Damien, I think that I've seen Arcs do very good damage. I think I undersold them a little bit. And their lines are insane. They do a ton of damage. They do have clones, but I think they deserve to be A tier. Survivability wise, I think they're okay. Not the greatest, but their damage and things like that is kind of just enough. It feels like. Not too familiar with the class, to be honest. I don't know about their iframes. They are pirates, so they have Freud of Wisdom. But I just know that they crank. They do a lot of damage. And so they're probably very good. I think Kaisers. See, one of the things I remember doing, I think Kaisers are better than in solo content than they are in team fighting, especially in Lotus, especially in solo arc. I'm gonna put them in the A tier. What I really like about them is they can go offense, defense. They have their defensive mode, which makes them take a ton of much less damage, right? They have their 170 hyper, that's an iframe. They have obviously their V3 hyper as V3 iframe as well. They have their teleports. They're good with the Lotus bombs. I think that they have great utility and survivability and tankiness, and they can handle bombs. They can, they're mobile, and I think that they are better than people think. I think Warriors are just in a good spot in general. I think Warriors are just very good. And Kaisers are, they're obviously not the top tier of the Warriors. Look how many good Warriors I believe there are. But the fact that one of the lowest Warriors isn't on A tier just goes to show how versatile they are. And Kaiser, in my opinion, even though their damage may be a little lackluster, they have been rebounded since then. They excel in solo content. I remember doing hard magics on it. It was very tanky and very easy to survive. Even if you messed up mechanics, there was a lot of wiggle room. You just take much less damage, and the teleports will be very nice and effective in Arc and Solo Lotus. So that's where I got them moved out. Pathfinders are A tier. Pathfinders are very good. Their burst is insane. They are doing a ton of damage. Arguably, just straight DPS wise, with the max stats, they're arguably the best archer in the game. I don't think it's very close. They're stronger than Mercedes with 40 mil cap, just because Mercedes don't hit cap all their clone lines. The one issue is that they don't attack and move like the other archers. Their archers aren't very tanky. They have their barrier, their bubble thing that might be helpful. That is helpful. I think they have that iframe that allows them to move through lasers, I'm pretty sure. Or it's an iframe now, but I just know Pathfinders crank. They just crank DPS wise. I think they're very good solo content wise. Obviously not greatest survivability, but I think they have enough to put them in A tier. Maybe I'm being too generous. I just think they deserve to be up here because they do so much damage. They just do. Yeah, Pirates. I got issues with Pirates. They're just not very mobile. They don't have the survivability of the iframes. Mages are the same way. They do have teleports. They would be great for handling bombs in phase 1, but man, are they squishy. Like, even bishops are very, like, I have such a hard time playing bishop in solo, like Lotus, and in solo arc. They just are squishy, very squishy. They have ethereal form. That's it. As an iframe, right? They have shell and benediction and things like that. Their damage is good, but they're just not S tier in solo content. I just don't like them. You can feel the difference in just how tanky they are. So all the mages are pretty much similar. Yeah, this is B tier. I think Night Lords should take a step back too, just because of how, again, they don't have much survivability. Like, and I'm thinking of sort of not the end game 40 mil cap, but I'm thinking of like a, 15 to 20 to 21 mil cap. That is sort of the cap range that I'm thinking of for all this solo content. And they just feel underwhelming. Like Dark Side isn't enough. And when you're constantly taking hits, the front hits, and taking aggro and taking damage, Night Lords just don't have answers. They just don't have anything to bank on when, they have a self-heal. They have long iframes, and if they have to move and they got to reposition, they lose damage. They lose DPS, right, in barrage and things like that. I just think they're a step down in solo content. Team content, much better, in my opinion. Yeah, I have to put, so, I'm going to put Demon Avengers down here as well. Again, I had them up there in Damien because of their, their shields and their tankiness. Actually, Demon Avengers are pretty tanky as well. They're sort of in a similar boat. I'm going to keep them in the A tier just because they have self-heals. So if you're constantly doing damage, you're going to self-heal. You are tanky like Kaisers, where they take less damage, just straight up hit less. You take the X damage, you can self-heal. Survivability is pretty good for Demon Avengers. So and they have the iframes of the warriors. Their dash is very, very good. Obviously, their shields, their nether shields, and their main attack has a wide range for bombs and Lotus and things like that. And so it's nice. I think Demon Avengers are pretty good in solo content, not going to lie. They excel there. Dual Blades rotate through their iframes, very strong as well. Can move and attack with their hypers and their V1. I think Dual Blades are just good. Not much to talk about. Thieves in general. Evans got buffed in their October rebounds. One of the better mages. Teleport, mobbing. Again, still a little squishy. I think, I want to put them down to B tier because I just remember when we used to have an Evan as an aggro, in solo content, it is just brutal. They run away, they can't do their combos, they can't keep up their uptime, they just flop. If you don't have a good bishop, you don't have they just flopped. And I think mages just take a step back, all basically besides a Sia and a Lumi. I just don't. I think mages just have a hard time in solo content. That's just how it is. I think archers are the same way. I like Wind Archer a little better. Yeah, I like Wind Archers a little better than Wild Hunters, mainly because of their 30-second iframe. That's about it. They both can attack on the move. They're both not exceptionally tanky. I also like Wind Archers, their V3, that sort of shell that they have that, allows them to take more hits and it does damage at the same time. I just picture that with Arc, Solo Arc and Solo Lotus. They will excel better than Wild Hunters. Wild Hunters really, once they use their one iframe, they're kind of helpless in a sense. Wind Archers have a little bit more flexibility with their iframe, and obviously you can use their shield, their V3 kind of manually when they need to survive, right? They're low on HP or something like that, or they're going to take a big hit. They can use that manually as a kind of utility skill to survive. We talked about Adele, Kaisers, Path. We'll be right back, and we'll talk about the S tier. All these classes you think going to survive up here, or you think they're going to drop down to A tier or B tier in solo content. We'll be right back, and we'll talk about it. All right, S tier. The final tier, like I said, bring up Demon Slayer. S tier, I think, I've been playing, like I mentioned, moved over my current hammer back to my Demon Slayer. 16 mil cap only, 47k physical attack. Demon Slayers are nice in solo content. They just have so many options. They got 3 iframes, right? They got their V3 skill. They got Raven Storm, which is a 30-second cooldown. Now you have to time that right, but it's great for screen crack. Doesn't work with Lotus lasers. but or maybe it does. Maybe it's faster lasers, but right now, it's just a nice, great option, and it's a 50% heal, right? And on top of their self healing, I think they take less damage as well. They have a great, as long as you're maintaining your attacks similar to Demon Avengers, you will get, you'll heal yourself. So you don't really necessarily need power elixirs. They have Dark Metamorphosis now is, has always been a 90-second cooldown. So they have a 90-second iframe, they have a 60-second iframe, and they have a 30-second iframe. That's a 50% heal. It just has so many options on top of their self heals. Their damage is insane. Is very, very good now. What I love about Demon Slayers and their October rebalance specifically was that their main skill, Demon Awakening, they shortened the duration, but also shortened the cooldown. So it's a 45-second duration versus 90 seconds, but instead of a 3-minute cooldown, it's a 90-second cooldown. And a lot of you may think why does that matter? It's the same thing, right? But it's not. Think about this. Like in a 3-minute fight, yes, it's the same. But in a 2-minute fight, or a 2:30 fight, like in the first 2:15, right? You'll get it you have uptime of 45 plus another 45, a minute and a half in the first 2 minutes, 15 seconds. And then again, at the 3-minute mark, you'll get it back up again. And it just feels like there's just so much more, a greater window, I guess, per se, that you can maximize your DPS. You can get that cooldown back up, right? And that's very effective, like in Lotus and in Damien in endgame, in Arc even, where say you have a magic crash into a damage reflect, into a magic crash again. Say that takes up like 15 seconds, and that's all your burst or whatever. That's 15 seconds of no burst. At least you'll have your cooldowns back up sooner. Maybe in between transitions, between phase 1 and phase 2, your Demon Awakening is just seconds are just going by. We're not using it. At least you'll have it back up sooner, and it just it just feels nicer. Like the feeling of having it up sooner. Yes, your 60 second, your guild dungeon score may go down. I feel like if I was as a Paladin player, I would take that any day of the week. 45 seconds on, 90 seconds off, versus versus 90 seconds on, 180 seconds off, or 180 second cooldown. You guys know what I mean. But I just feel like it's more flexible. You can even manually use it if you wanted to, and I feel like it just helped Demon Slayers do more damage consistently, and less reliant on it lines up better with all the other skills, their passive skills and things like that. It feels very, very nice, and I like the playstyle a lot. And I have them in S tier. In solo content and in team settings, they'd probably be S tier as well. If you don't know Rubido, check out some of his content. He is absolutely breaking barriers on Demon Slayer. They're very, very good. I would say I would take them over Hero right now because of that, because of the extra iframes they have. Dark Knights, they're right up there with them. I would maybe take Demon Slayers with Dark Knights as well. Just all these warriors are very, very good. And just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the A tier, and only 1, 2, or 3. Yeah, Warriors. I like Warriors a lot. I think they're very good in solo content. A lot of them have self heals, extra iframes, mobility, good damage. Warriors are probably still arguably the best, solo content team, solo content class category. Can't really go wrong with any of them, to be honest. Shadowers, kind of the same boat as Demon Slayers. They got a buff with their burst. Their cooldown got shortened. Not much to say. Shadowers are, I believe, a tier above Dual Blades. One of the best thieves in the game. Solo content. They got mini iframes with their V2 skills. They got Dark Sight. They got teleports. They got good consistent damage and the burst as well. Not much bad things to say about Shadowers in solo content. Mesoguard is nice too. Just take reduced damage. Um, they're great for Lotus. They have good, mobbing as well for Lotus bombs in phase one with their hypers and their V skills. Good mobility. They can stay on the ground for a long time for Lotus if they wanted to. I think Shadows are just, obviously S tier. Mercedes, I was thinking about dropping down to A tier. Actually, do you know what? I think I am. In solo content, I almost want to drop them down to B tier. Are they worse than I'll just drop them down to A tier because their damage is still very good. They have the unicorn. They can attack on the move. But I like Wind Archers better in solo content. And Pathfinders, I think, are very strong as well. In solo content, I think Mercedes are number 3, just for me. They don't have as many iframes. They don't have the bubbles like these archers do. Their damage is pretty good, but it takes a lot of funding. You need max level V skills, and I would say a lot of as a player with 16 to 21 mil cap funding may not always have the max V skills. It just takes a little bit more funding, and for the top end, Mercedes are more top end game, very strong, but kind of in that middle tier game with the solo content. I think they're better options. I don't think they're as good as if they had a bishop or if they had a paladin for Sankro, and other support classes to kind of help them survive and do what they do best, which is burst. So I'm dropping them down. Loomies always have been insane. Loomies are very good. Best lines, arguably the most lines, best damage dealer in the game. They're tanky. They got the best, insane mobbing for Lotus bombs. They have a stun. They have iframe, I think. Yeah, I think they have an iframe. And they just take ones in damage. I don't know what they're doing over there, but they don't take any damage. Loomies are S tier. Not much to say about that. Arguably the best DPS in the game. Heroes, DKs, same boat. They got Magic Crash for solo arc, which I really like. Demons don't have that. Demon Slayers have the stun. I think Demon Avengers still have a stun as well, which helps them. But the Explorer Warriors have Magic Crash, which is nice for solo arc specifically. And then DKs have Final Pact, which is insane. Heroes are good bossers just in general. Their dashes, they have a short iframe. And they have the V3 common, both very good. I believe, they're S tier. They're right up there with Demon Slayers. Shades, solo content. Not the best lines, not the best damage, but split is just insane. The crit res is just insane. The self heals, the backstep, the teleports, their hyper skill. They have their own Heaven's Door. They're just very good. Tanky. They're very good in Lotus. Very good with bombs. Split is insane. Solo arc. They have a stun as well. Yeah, not much to say. Shades just have a great toolkit. May not be the best damage dealer, but you see them at the top of the charts, like in Mulong. There's good shades out there. Mulong, Covert, solo content. They've always been top tier. Ever since I was playing them for Hard Magnus, they were always easy to play and very, very strong. And they just crank with split. Phantoms. These are my top 3. I would put. I just like. Where would I put Sia's up there? Again, my issue with Sia is that they are kind of squishy. But they just have so much utility, I think. They do a lot of damage. They can stun if they wanted to. They have obviously their V3. They will never die, apparently. Solo Lotus, obviously. Solo Lotus will be very good with the bomb control and their damage. They got a lot of kind of place down summons that they can attack while moving. There's no way I'm not putting Sia as an S tier, but I almost feel like they're not competitive. They're not as good with these classes, because they don't have I guess they do have an iframe. Maybe. I'm not sure. They have a lot of stuff. I just assume Sia is very good, the way I understand it. But I would put Shade. I like Shades better. Like if I were to rank it, like my top 3 would be these classes, I think, and then I'd probably go. Like I feel like Lumi's up there, but I don't know Lumi well enough. But I think Lumis have always been very good. I just don't think they have the iframes. I just really like Warriors, just having that third iframe, like just to, and the self healing of Demon Slayers. Maybe it's my bias. Maybe it's because I'm just so happy to be playing back to playing Demon Slayer. But they have a great toolkit. I don't think they can rotate through their skills. They have good burst. DKs have obviously a great Final Pact as well. Magic Crash. I think all these Warriors are better. I think even Shadow Wars are better than Sia. I think Lumis might be better in Sia. I'm curious what you think. Is Sia good to play in solo content? Like, do they have self heals? Do they have iframes? Obviously they have their Heaven's Door. I'm curious what you think. If you play all these classes, or obviously you can disagree with me. I'm biased, obviously, to Warriors and the classes I played, but I just know that these classes are very, very strong. I'm sure Sia's right there. You can nitpick, but yeah. Shades number 3. I talked about them. Phantoms, Synchro. Phantoms are just they can be immune for 90 seconds. I mean, more in the first 90 seconds or the first 2 minutes, they could be immune for 20 the whole time. But if they use Time Leap, they could be immune for the first 30 seconds with Synchro. They could have Dark Sight. They could Time Leap, Dark Sight again. So that's 50 seconds in a row. They could use Freud, which is another, 10, 15 seconds. And then maybe be not immune for 15, 20 seconds and have Synchro back up again. And then, so the first 2 minutes of a fight, they could be up immune for all of it but 15, 20 seconds. Yeah, I mean, Phantoms is, solo content, kings. Just kings. And then what I like about them is they have the short cooldowns as well. Time Leap, you can use Tempest back to back. You can, it's also going to help your Defense Smash 4, resetting that, your cards and all that stuff. Just the amount of short cooldowns that you have. Yeah, Phantoms are arguably the easiest class to play for solo content. There's just so many answers and so many ways to survive. On top of that, they can have their healing cards. They can attack on the move. And then Paladins, obviously, 3 iframes. 3, they can rotate them. Res, Synchro, their V3. They got the stun. They got the Magic Crash. They got dash. They got the burst. They got the self heal. They got up jumps. Still, nothing's really changed as far as solo content. These are, I remember doing this my first time around at the beginning of the year. It was my first video. Kind of funny to think about that. But my first video was a class rankings, and I'm pretty sure these are my top 3. No matter what the meta does in solo content, these 3 are king. Very, very good. Just so many answers, just so many tools in the toolkit, and don't really require a lot of funding. I think Paladins maybe a little bit more than these 2, but Shades and Phantoms cap pretty easily. Don't need to level their V skills as much. It's not as important as the Paladin's Echo, but man, yeah, that's my list. Solo content, right? Keep that in perspective. I'm thinking of, and solo content and sort of 15, 16 to 20, 21, 22 mil cap funding range, right? Room to grow, not at the end game. Sort of, clearing solo Lotus, team Lotus, solo Arc daily, hard Magnus, obviously, Commanders. How easy is that daily grind to do all that content? And I'm doing it on, I got 4 characters now, 2 paladins, Demon Slayer, and the bishop that I do my commander dailies up to solo Lotus. And yeah, Pallies and Demon Slayers are a breeze. Bishops is pretty tough. I can imagine this is sort of what I'd be imagining. Yeah. Curious what you guys think. Agree, disagree. Again, I just wanted to do this, end the year strong, kind of end the year at how I started it. And looking forward to 2024. Hopefully, by next patch, the new year comes around, they'll be dropping something because, January patch is going to come in, a few weeks. So hopefully if Cygnus Knights Remaster comes out in January, hopefully they tease it by next patch. That would be awesome. That would be ideal. Hopefully they give us some sort of roadmap like they did last year. New year. Exciting to see what's in store. Hope you guys had a great holidays. Quickly, I kind of want to share, my holidays. This is the first. I got a 3.5-year-old and almost 2-year-old, and this is the first year my oldest had any sort of idea about Santa. Right? He understands it. Gifts. He wrote a letter to Santa what he wanted for Christmas. That's all he could talk about. Have you met Santa? When does Santa come? How does he know what gifts? How does he know what house? All these things, right? Everything. He's just curious. And up at 5:00, Christmas Day, like Christmas Eve. Well, earlier in the week, we let him open a present. He was just too excited, right? Christmas Eve, we didn't let him open, but we told him to go sleep early and then woke up early. Christmas Day, 5:00. He was up, ready, opening presents by 6:00, probably 5:30. All day, chaos. Just so many toys. We couldn't even open them all. My father-in-law bought tons of toys, right, for each of the kids. They had a blast. They loved it. So we had to kind of split it up into toys so Christmas Eve, they opened more presents, more toys. And different. It's different. Once you have kids, man, it's it's the best thing in the world, seeing the joy on their face. But at the same time, can't just relax. There was football on, couldn't watch that. Had to figure out what we're gonna do for dinner. Christmas Eve, last minute, nothing's open on Christmas Day. Next thing you know, 3-day weekend, back to work. Tuesday, the 26th, crazy, hectic. Just just different, fun. You got these memories, they go by fast, right? Taking all the pictures, getting all the videos, just seeing them, never going to forget it. But yeah, this is different than what Christmas used to be without kids, and wouldn't change it for the world. But I don't know how many people out there have kids. Want to have kids, it's life-changing for the better, for sure. And just wanted to share that little, what it's like, what this Christmas has been like, because pretty soon they're going to be teenagers and not care about any of this stuff, right? And time flies. And just looking over here, Christmas tree's up, all the toys are out, and New Year's coming. Sorry, 2024. Thank you again for watching. Hope you guys had a great Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. See you guys in 2024.